Wow, we're here. Tomorrow, War and Peace. That's a lie. Uh, hmm. Amazing. Is your
Hello, everyone. I'm Felicia Roundhouse Close over there. Wow. Sorry about that. Hey, Rain Rudnick in chat. Let me just go over everything I said. I hate this disgusting crystal at the bottom right hand corner of the comic. It is telling me about Sonic Prime. It is so cynical. Thanks, Rain, for pointing that out. I would never have caught it.
we had that problem one time before.
Hate it. Just every update probably I think of OBS is just like, oh, where's the mic? Where'd the microphones go? They're where they were before. They're always where they were before.
Ah.
But but yeah, Scrapnik Island. We're supposed to be looking at this, but I'm just focused on this such a cool ad. Oh man,
Hmm.
Sonic Prime.
Yeah. So we're a week and a day late on this review.
We are, but there's a really
Um.
good explanation for it.
Yeah, actually, I have it because
Mm-hmm.
it's mostly related to me. See, because Comic of course comes out on a Wednesday, because Sonic comics come out on Wednesdays for some reason. Not
Yeah,
really clear why, but it's been very convenient for us because we stream on Thursday.
yeah.
So came out on Wednesday, we read it. Thursday happened, and I pulled my back,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in a lot of pain, so I didn't want to stream.
Right.
And I just figured, we'll get it on Tuesday. That's our next stream time that we do. Tuesday and Thursday, that's when we stream. Then Tuesday sucked. It was terrible. I was so stressed I was physically ill.
Yeah.
Thursday, I think we just weren't feeling up to
We
it.
just didn't want.
But finally, now, today, not even on a day we normally stream, just because um,
Finally today, after many days of not being able to do it, we were like, well, if we don't do it now, it's gonna be weird.
look, just gonna be honest with everybody, gonna be
Mm-hmm. Let's
honest.
be honest here.
There maybe wasn't a whole lot of motivation to review this comic.
And that was gonna be my very good reason.
Um,
Was just there's a very good reason why we didn't review this comic before. We didn't feel like it.
yeah, I mean, I had multiple times over the days we were meant to be streaming where I had difficulties.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there were definitely plenty of days that were our non-streaming days where we could have done a pickup stream, which is something we've done before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this second issue of Scrapnik Island definitely landed much more in the mediocre bucket for both of us.
Yeah. I ended up choosing to do more things that were more interesting to me, like being summoned for jury duty.
Hmm. Yeah.
That'll be
Hopefully yours
happening in
gets
December.
canceled like mine got.
I gotta call them sometime. Anyway,
Yeah.
but
I had a phone number and it was a whole thing, and then I called the number and then they were like, it's fine. Stay home, and I'm like stressing out for days over this.
yeah.
If I'd been summoned at Surrey, dude, I might have been in court when fucking when Sonic
Frontiers?
Frontiers came out.
That would have sucked.
That would have sucked. I wanted to play a video game, and thankfully I got to.
You know. Oh man, Sonic Prime is premiering the day before I get summoned. Wait, no, it's the day after I've been summoned. Right, sorry. So I may be like, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I gotta. Oh, we are all over the place right now. But let's look at this cover. So let's look at this
Yeah.
cover.
So comic books. The cover is part of the experience. The cover it draws you in. It tells you about things, or it's a robot with a hat.
Or it is just remember Knuckles' hat. Remember the hat that, let's be honest, a large part of why people remember it and like it is because of the Knuckles comics, but people don't like to bring that up because people are hypocrites. But
Yeah, I mean the comics, you know, it was back in the comics that Ken Penders tried to make use of the hat. It was like, oh, the hat, and then Sega said no.
yeah, I was like, oh, that hat's looking good on you, boyo, said Archimedes. And then it's like, yep. And then Knuckles puts the hat back on the shelf. And it's like, let's not do that again.
Yeah.
The last part's a joke. It didn't even show up again for a while until...
Not until it was 25 years later. But it didn't take 25 real years.
Yeah, no, yeah. So the cover... Rain says, I certainly didn't get a chance to fall in love with it during the 20 minutes it was on screen during the OVA. I loved it the most in 25 years later.
Knuckles has a whole new look.
It's really
cool.
It has a robot eye. I mean, we also have a robot eye here.
Yeah, but this robot eye is like a honeycomb, and it's different.
Yeah, it's different. And
I'll talk more about my feelings on this robot when we get to it in the comic. But as far as the cover goes, if you specifically remember how Knuckles wore a hat before and currently does in an alternate outfit in Sonic vs. Speed Battle, and if you remember this Knuckles robot from Sonic Advance 2?
3, I think?
3 was Gemerald.
Fuck.
Like,
2?
that was the whole thing. I think it was 2, because I don't think it was 1, because that's when Vanilla debuted.
You know, I almost wish a Sonic fan were here to tell... 1, okay.
Was it 1? Or was it 2 where Vanilla debuted?
2 was where Vanilla debuted, because that's where Cream debuted. I know that one.
Okay, Cream debuted in 2. Sorry, it's been so long since I emulated the games because I never got them on Game Boy Advance.
Wouldn't it have been cool if he got introduced to Vanilla in the first Sonic Advance game, and then in the sequel you meet her daughter?
Wouldn't it be neat if they did, like, anything with Vanilla? Anyway.
Not super hot on this cover.
This cover, it's just kind of dull, because it's like... Much like the at the end of issue 1 where it's like, oh, look, it's the Knuckles robot. It's like, I don't care.
I have not really been through anything with this Knuckles robot. It's just kind of shallow nostalgia to me.
You know, I look at it and I'm like, I have no emotional investment in this Knuckles robot. And keep that one in mind. We'll come back to that later.
Put a pin on that.
But yeah, opening up the comic, it is still rust red inside. And
kind of garish.
It's just a bunch of brown.
Yeah.
Much like Scrapnik Island itself.
Story by Daniel Barnes. Art by Jack Lawrence, who I forget if I mentioned before, but we do know him from his work in Bad Guys, which was passable.
His work is kind of hit or miss for me. Like, it's never, I think, outright bad, but sometimes I just look at it and I feel distinctly unimpressed.
Yeah. Overall, though, I think he keeps me at a very comfortable middle.
Yeah, like I said, his art never falls into, like, being actively unpleasant.
Yeah.
I just sometimes find it to be very meh.
Yeah. Colors by Natalie Fordring, who's also just taken up the cover A's, as I mentioned before. She's usually doing retail incentive, which... it's probably a lot of workload just to do a cover every issue, but
yeah.
Especially since it's retail incentive, so it's got to be ready earlier than the others. But
yeah.
Also doing colors for this, so she's very much like having a big hand in the visual identity of this comic.
Yeah.
And I believe she also did some design work. There's like been various posts on Twitter from the IW staff of like the character sheets and stuff.
Yeah. And by staff, we mean the various unaffiliated freelancers who get work with no contractual obligation from IDW to work on this comic.
Yeah, and no contractual obligation to IDW, and IDW is not contractually obligated to them, so they don't have to give them benefits. They don't have to like
Yeah.
lots of
They really
things.
have no formal job security. Just
Mm-hmm.
rather informal and based on whether or not IDW feels like, they're getting a proper return on investment and they could drop them at any time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let's be
Which
honest.
that's just comics if anyone's not aware. That's just everything in comics. Comics sucks.
Yeah, the industry is bad.
It's a very it's a real mess of an industry, and it's
Letters by Sean Lee, editors Riley Farmer and David Marriott.
yeah.
We've made it
Riley
past the
Farmer and
credits,
David
everyone.
Marriott are actually working for IDW. I don't know about Son Lee specifically. Son Lee is so consistent on this comic, like the only letter I think that the comic has ever had.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know specifically if Son Lee's a freelancer or not. I haven't checked.
Mm-hmm. I haven't checked either. I don't see him brought up incessantly among the group of pals that make this comic. So I
Yeah.
assume he's just kind of someone who's there.
Hmm. But the comic opens up on our good friend
Which one was
E1.
he? Fuck. Oh god.
Do they say his name later in the comic?
Um.
Um,
Sigma.
Sigma.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention no story so far or character page with terrible art. So that's a mark in this comic's
Yeah.
favor.
Yeah, please stop doing those in the main series. They're bad.
They're not. They're bad and they're not good.
At least the
Um,
character pages.
I also have a chip on my shoulder about the story so far page because it's just basically like you can basically get the gist of a story by like a wiki pages summary of it.
I mean, it's last time on Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we see E1 Sigma in a flashback waking up on the beats
Yes.
of Scrapnik Island. The Death Egg is there.
Mm-hmm.
On the next page, we see him reassembling an egg bot,
Egg Robo.
egg robo, and then introducing that rebuilt egg robo who has a new different arm to all sorts of other Scrapnik-y fellas, because
Yep.
I don't know if it was specifically stated in issue 1 that Sigma was the one who built this entire island and reconstructed all the friends, but
Mm-hmm.
um, if we didn't know that, we know that now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him going around making a table or a shelter
Mm-hmm.
in the brown world of it being brown. It's also very washed out because it's a flashback, so it's even more brown than before.
Yeah.
Some kind of robot I can't even recognize because it's so rusty comes over, and oh look, it's
It's Mechasonic.
Mechasonic. He's
Yeah.
also rusty in here on a beat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Mechasonic was eventually rebuilt. Because he was here.
I think we've all learned a valuable lesson from this flashback. Back to the present day.
Yeah, so the flashback is like sort of going for atmosphere and like being like, oh, here's how Scrapnik Island happened.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't do a lot for me personally.
Yeah, me neither. I honestly just now was like, what issue is this again? Are we on issue 3 yet? Is this almost done? Anyway, Sonic is yawning. So am I.
Yeah. We
Sonic is
come
yawning
back
comic.
to Sonic, who has his foot in a brace because it got hurt and is relaxing on a terrible, terrible, like, chair that you would have like by a pool, whatever
That's
you call those
awful.
ones.
Just a
Like the reclining
pool
chairs
chair.
with the fabric.
Lounge chair, maybe?
That makes me think of a lounge. I think like maybe that because it's like lounging, but then I think of a lounge like lounge singers,
And
and that's very
it'd
much
be
not what you put by a pool.
yeah, but I can't think of anything else that would be a lounge chair.
I just think of like a big poofy chair.
A big poofy chair.
Yeah, that you can just really settle into. Anyway,
Sonic
this
is
comic
like,
has a story.
yeah, a badnik is greeting Sonic, and Sonic's like, "Oh, hey, little guy, what's up?" And then the badnik says, "Hello."
Yeah, it's a little butterfly one that doesn't seem to have any other attachments. It's just a little butterfly one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess sometimes you find one and it just has all its parts because it didn't have many parts to begin with.
Tails is like, "Awesome! I finally got to work." And Sonic's like, well, "What's happening? What is this?" After he hears plain English from a badnik.
I I I just noticed
Yeah.
how incorrectly drawn the Miles Electric is in this panel.
Oh dear. Oh, now I'm looking. Now I'm looking. Oh
Oh,
no.
oh, the screen is so tiny in this
It's the
panel.
Game Gear model. It's the Game. It's all bulky and
There's
tiny
so much
screen.
plastic, so much orange plastic around this tiny, tiny screen.
It's the fucking Fisher Price Mouse Electric.
Oh yeah, it's very Fisher Price because it's mostly screened by volume, or it's
Hmm.
supposed to be. Oh,
Like here's a quick drawing guide for the Miles Electric. If you have a Nintendo Switch, grab that, look at it.
I mean,
If
just grab your Wii U gamepad. I mean, that's
that
probably the
too,
closest one.
yeah, yeah.
I think like the Wii U gamepad is basically just the correct screen to outside
Yeah.
of screen proportions.
Just so grab your Wii U gamepad, give it a good dusting, and
Mine needs a more intensive dusting, honestly.
yeah, honestly, oh man, I didn't know dust could collect that hard on
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, my 3DS, I opened that up and it's got a clamshell design, so like it protected itself from the dust, and like the screens are still great, but ooh, that gamepad.
You know, the Wii U should have just been a clamshell design. You know,
Yeah.
you just close up on itself, like all of it.
Or maybe if it just there was like a cover, if there's just like a cover I could have put on it to
Yeah.
protect it.
Oh, Rain says in chat, I'm still working on my gamepad dust.
It's
Sympathies, sympathies. Good lord.
anyway, Tails. I don't really know why.
He made them
But
talk, so it's cute.
he has given the Scrapniks the gift of speech.
They're using it to say hello.
Hello.
Rain says, I'm just glad Tails got himself an orange spice Wii U. Which is a reference to how, for some reason, the orange GameCube is called, like, Spice Orange or something.
Mm.
Fucking pumpkin spice GameCube. Anyway.
Yeah, also there's a bit where he's like, oh, they can only talk through my speakers. But the speech bubbles are clearly coming from the
Them.
Scrapniks.
Yeah. And he wouldn't have reacted if he was just hearing, like, from... If it was coming from Tails' speakers,
Which I
then...
assume means the Miles Electric.
Yeah.
I assume. But, like... I don't know, this part's weird. I assume this will come up, because there's two more issues after this. I assume it'll come up somehow. I don't know how, but...
Maybe it'll be used for emotions later.
Maybe Mecha Sonic will speak.
And he'll be like, I
There can
actually...
only be one Sonic, and then he'll fall into the lava, and then we'll all be sad.
No! No! Oh, man. So the other Badniks are saying, hello! And Tails like, slow down, one at a time. And Sonic is like, leave it to Tails to find the upside to being stranded on an island of junk.
I guess they're mostly just, at this point at least, just trying to look at it as like Tails as being a cute tech boy. The screen is still tiny. I just looked in all the drawings.
Mm.
I thought maybe it was just very tiny in that one, but it's just being drawn very small.
Mm-hmm.
The background for Scrapnik Island continues to just kind of be brown.
Yeah.
We are here on the brown ground next to some brown cliffs, and
Ooh, but there's also some gray dome beyond the brown cliffs.
yeah, because before we were standing next to that gray dome and looking out on the brown, but now we can turn around and see the Death Egg, which I guess is the only landmark.
What a wonderful location we've set our I almost said fanfic. Oh my god, I'm miniseries.
I don't know, it's just I know that I keep hammering on about this, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record or anything, but it's just like this location feels like it has so little identity visually, and it's like, gosh, compared to this, the Lost Hex was practically vibrant,
Yeah.
and that place had no reason to exist.
Mm-hmm. Sigma returns, saying, "Salutations, gentlemen. We have finished assessing the damage to your plane." But
And Tails is like, look, I made them say hello a lot.
hello, hello, hello. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
And Sigma is impressed at this hello machine.
Because he's given the Scrapniks the gift of gab.
Yes. And it was pretty easy.
Yeah, because these are back from before Eggman had firewalls.
Mm-hmm.
And does reiterate that the audio is apparently coming from
His data
the Miles
pad.
Electric.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Mechasonic looks at the Miles Electric, and it goes. Kzzzt.
Yeah, he does that thing where his eye turns red again, and it's like, oh, he's doing a malfunction. We don't focus on that, though. We focus on Sonic, who's being impatient.
Ahem. You were saying something about the damage to our plane, Sig. I also noticed that he's on a beach chair, kind of.
We were talking about that.
But like it's like the Sonic OVA, because he was that at the start.
Yeah.
And Sigma requests forgiveness yet again, and has good news and bad news. Good news is that most of the damage to the plane is superficial and can be easily repaired. Bad news is that our integrated drive generator is cracked and needs to be fully replaced.
Yeah, it makes electricity for the plane. And it can't fly without it.
Mm-hmm. I also note that Sonic says, "Into what now?" Which, I just want to bring this up, because, like, since we last streamed, I played through a whole game where Sonic's like, "But what about the inner workings of this cool ancient island and all its technology? I'd like to ask some pointed and detailed questions about the technology." I just appreciate "Into what now" from Sonic. It's just me.
Yeah, Sonic doesn't know what these fancy doohickeys are called.
Yeah.
Anyway, they might be able to find a spare somewhere in the Death Egg.
Sonic's like, "Well, let's quit standing around and get this show on the road."
And Tails is like, shouldn't you be resting your ankle?
And Sonic's like, "I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. If I gotta do any more sitting back today, I'm gonna lose it."
Yeah, and Tails does make reference to his foot, that specifically his left foot taking a lot of punishment lately. Because it's been injured twice now, in the current main series story and in this story that presumably takes place afterwards.
Yeah, I think that last line does
Yeah, it does pretty firmly put it as post whichever issue they stop being directly following up. The current storyline is going on for more time. We don't know when it'll end.
I believe 56. Wait, no, because then Imperial City. Fuck.
Yeah, like that's the thing. With 57, it looks like we're still like right doing things right after one another. So like even when the current story ends, at some point I assume there'll be a stopping point and a slight time skip, and then it'll be like, okay, that's where this one goes. For now, it's just vaguely it happens later, and there will be things that happen later that will have happened after it.
Sigma and Mecha Sonic will ensure Sonic's health and safety. Right, Mecha? Says Sigma.
Yeah.
Mecha says nothing. It doesn't have a hello processor.
Tails asks if he should come, but Sigma suggests that Tails stay behind and start working on the plane because that would be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And says that his assistants will help, which are 3 egg robos that are all of all sorts of little eccentricities because they're Scrapniks and they all say hup.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really say hup. That's for comedic effect. They can't actually speak.
Not until Tails hijacks their frequencies and puts their speech in his data pad.
Yeah, and then the Miles Electric will say hup 3 times.
Yes.
But the speech bubbles will come from the Scrapniks.
So Sigma, Megasonic, and Sonic are off.
And they're being ominously watched still by the Knuckles robot.
Yep. So Sonic pointedly asks, what's the deal with the sunflower?
Yeah, as we suddenly cut to inside the Death Egg, Megasonic is watering the sunflower, which is in a little bubble, and then puts the cap back on it.
Yeah. And the background
Sigma
behind the sunflower explains, yeah. Inexplicably washed ashore some time ago, Mecha has cared for it ever since in hopes of planting it in real soil one day. It's their dream to leave this island. You see, this place may be their home, but it is also a prison of sorts, a constant reminder of their shameful origins. But they are Eggman's discarded puppets no longer. They must escape from beneath his shadow if they are to truly live happily.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonic is like, "Aw, you might look scary, but you're actually a big old softy. I'm sure you guys will make it off his trash heap one day, big fella," and he nudges him. And Mecha Sonic is like, and it's like, kill, kill, kill. And
the eyes go red again.
Yeah, but like...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonic is somewhat perturbed by this, because I guess Mecha Sonic has usually been behind everyone when he's been blitzing out.
So Sonic's like, hey, yeah, thumbs up, yeah.
And Mecha Sonic just leaves.
Mm-hmm. I look at this, like, prison comments. And how they're like, it's a reminder of our shameful origins. Oh, it's so bad that we were once made for this. But it's like, but that's not defining you, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Omega. Omega's totally redefined himself, all on his own.
Yeah. And
sure, he's still an instrument of destruction, but it's a destruction he chooses.
Yeah. And just I
feel like Omega would be just very annoyed if he learned about the Scrapniks.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't destroy them because they're beneath him.
Yeah.
But he just really, really hate being reminded that they exist.
Mm-hmm. But then we behold the Scrapnik Island's crown jewel, the scrambled egg carrier.
I still don't know why that's here.
It doesn't get explained this issue, and I think if it was ever going to be explained, it was going to be this issue, and it wasn't explained. Yeah. Rain says he's an instrument of destruction that plays his own music instead of Eggman's covers.
Mm-hmm. Waking up. Breaking out.
This is what it's like to be free.
Yeah, so basically, they have been reconstructing the egg carrier so that they can fly away out on it.
And Sonic says out loud, "Man, I'm getting nostalgic. Me and this thing go way back." Just spelling out what the intended audience reaction is supposed to be. Yeah, remember this? Remember the egg carrier? I'm getting nostalgic.
Hmm.
And he makes a very cheesy pun. And get a great look at it earlier with you guys scaring the scrap out of me. And Sigma's like, ha ha, forgiveness requested.
I like Sigma. I'm glad he's our good friend.
It'll never let us down.
Yeah. So, as they walk past, we see the Knuckles robot just standing there menacingly.
Mm-hmm.
One glowing eye peeking out from under the hat.
Mm-hmm.
We go to inside the egg carrier next, with Sigma rooting around in something.
And because this is a horror miniseries, Sigma proposes they split up to cover more ground. And offers Sonic a flashlight for his non-robotic eyes.
Yeah, so Sonic goes with the Mechasonic while Sigma goes on his own. And we just cut to later with Sonic searching some garbage and Mechasonic searching some other garbage.
Sonic looks over at Mecha with expression that I believe is supposed to be like thoughtful, like, oh, I should really say something. But like
Yeah,
it just
like
kind of looks like he just looks confused about where he is. He's like, wait, what was he doing again? So he's like, hey, I want to apologize for the mix-up earlier. I think we both got off on the wrong foot. Literally. I know that you and I have a history, but clearly a lot's changed. You're super chill now and watering flowers. You have hopes and dreams, you're rocking a cool cape, you're moving forward, which I'm all about. In fact, there's a certain other Sonic robot who could really learn a thing or two from you, I think. So how about you and me squash the beef? A fresh start. Right here, right now. What do you say?
And Sonic throughout all this has a hand held out, and as he finishes, Mechasonic starts to hold out his hand, and a friendship. Oh, what's that? You're being interrupted.
What's that? It's Mecha Knuckles.
Yeah. He uses his Wrecking Ball arm, I think, to attack, and Mechasonic pulls Sonic out of the way.
Yeah, just how many robot doubles do you guys have stashed around here? No offense, says Sonic.
Yeah,
with
and
kind of a very similar panel followed by it.
Yeah, so they're like squaring off against the Mecha Knuckles, but then Mechasonic looks over at Sonic, presumably just diagnosing that Sonic is no condition to fight right now. Instead, grabs him and runs away on this weird buzzsaw leg.
I look at those two panels, and like last page with the Sonic and Mecha talking, and there's lots of panels that like are very similar in composition to one another, and framing. That like I feel like it's meant to be like, oh, it's like just imagine if this was like animated and stuff with the same shot.
Yeah, they're very much meant, I think, to represent like a beat. But
it's not.
Yeah,
really
they are doing it. They are doing it a lot.
Mecha picks up Sonic and carries him, and we cut back to Sigma.
No, I'm noticing also with the Knuckles robot behind them staring menacingly. Yeah, there's just a lot of those same beat panels of just Anyway,
Sigma says, "By Jove, I do believe I have located it," revealing to me that I probably should have been giving him like an English thing, an English accent for the robot.
I don't know. He just kind of talks formally, but I took that as a robot speak more than anything.
Mm. And then, and then Cluster, and then Sigma says, gears and starters. Where'd they come up with that?
I feel like if people are not careful, Gears and Starters is going to be really run into the ground.
It's on its way.
Yeah, like it was one thing when it was Belle,
Mm-hmm.
who's Eggman's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
I liked it when Evan did it initially, and then when Ian was like, "Oh yeah, that was a line I did. I'll get to do it this time," and then he had her do it like twice or something.
know.
Anyway,
Oh, Sawdust.
oh Sawdust. They met Mecha Knuckles, says Sigma, quite the spirited fellow, and Sonic's like, "Well, I. What's his problem? What's he trying to bash? Why is he trying to bash my brains in?" And
And Sigma explains, and this is a thing that I wanted to talk about now that we're here to it.
okay,
He says, Eggman's directive compelled him to defend the Master Emerald's shrine on Angel Island from intruders. They were so deeply embedded in his programming that I was unable to fully remove them, so I diverted his protective instincts to guarding the scrambled egg carrier instead. And here we come to something that I wanted to talk about regarding robots and how they get depicted.
okay,
Because there are, broadly speaking, in Sonic and in a lot of media as well, basically two types of robots that get to exist.
yeah,
Robots that are characters, and robots that are programming.
yeah,
So, for example, in Sonic, E123 Gamma, or Omega, yeah. Sorry.
mm-hmm.
Too many E series
yeah,
with Sigma here as well. Omega is a robot that's a character.
mm-hmm.
He has, fairly simplistic because he's very much a supporting character, but he has his own wants and desires. He has his own character traits. He has his own, hot buttons that'll set him off and things. You can appeal to him.
Mm-hmm.
Orbot and Cubot, they're characters.
Yeah.
They have character traits and characteristics. In this comic, Sigma is a character, and Mechasonic, even though he doesn't get any dialogue, is a character.
And certainly
He
Bell's a
has.
character.
I'm just saying that this comic is
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Scrapnik Island.
Yeah,
He has clear desires and goals and traits and things. And then you have the Scrapniks in general, which are not characters.
yeah. Those are programming.
And you have Mechaknuckles. Mechaknuckles doesn't get to have a soul.
Yeah.
Mechaknuckles is defined by, he was programmed to do this. Where Mechasonic is defined by, actually having any amount of, willpower. And, thoughts of his own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned, we were going to come back to emotional investment and my lack thereof with this robot. There's nothing to be invested in.
Yeah.
We're being faced with an entity that exists solely to be an obstacle.
And even as Sigma tells Mechaknuckles to stand down, we cut to the next page where Mechaknuckles does not stand down.
Yeah, he glitzes out, kind of looking similar to the way that Mechasonic has been, and then attacks. So
Yeah.
Sigma is now down for the count and vooms as he deactivates.
And Sonic's like, Sig!
Yeah. Mechasonic runs in and attacks Mechaknuckles. There's a fight scene and just demolishes him.
Mm-hmm.
But Mechaknuckles gets back up and lands a big hit. And then we get, again, because Mechasonic gets to be a character, we actually get to take a look into what's going on with himself inside and his glitzing out programming and all that.
Yeah. Where we we cut to, I guess, Mechasonic's mind's eye as as the scenery changes from cold, derelict, scrambled egg carrier to Sky Sanctuary, a very cyberspacey Sky Sanctuary.
Yeah, and like we see what seems to be a corrupted flashback to him fighting Sonic and also to him fighting Knuckles. As we see, it's just a weird half and half, Knuckles and Sonic.
And the eyes are blocked out like it's porn or something.
And in this flashback, of course, Mechasonic is the way that he was in the video game.
Yeah, and
the flashback totally moves over to looking like Sonic.
yeah, with sharp teeth and sharp fingers, gloved, of course, with a very corrupted version of what I said before.
Yeah.
Which is
basically various Sonic dialogues from earlier in the comic all scrambled up to become something that's now a big scary insult to
this just
to
looks like a
Mechasonic.
Scourge version of Sonic's dialogue from before. And I'm seeing like the sharp teeth and okay. So Mechasonic slashes at the not real Sonic, and then there's Eggman.
Yeah, and also when he attacks the not real Sonic, his appearance changes to being his present rustied version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the weird nightmare Eggman has like Knuckles' gloves, and the nightmare Sonic and the nightmare Knuckles are like growing out of him.
Yeah.
Because it's like horror a bit.
It's kind of like horror.
Yeah, and then he's like, "You are my greatest creation to date," and then just the word "trash" starts repeating in Mechasonic's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him on the ground waking up from his nightmare that he had after he got punched.
And Sonic's like, "Easy, knucklehead, let's talk this out. I just insulted you." And then Mechasonic fucking annihilates Mechaknuckles.
Yeah, he grabs him by the back of the head, I think this is a spin dash. He just becomes round, so I assume he's spin dashing.
I think that's how it went in the game, yeah.
Yeah, and then Mechaknuckles is nothing but a pile of flaming scrap and a head with now no eyes in it.
Probably kind of a bummer for the people who saw this cover revealed like months ago and were like, "Oh yeah, Mechaknuckles!
Yeah,
He's gonna be a big character."
Turns out Mechaknuckles isn't even a character.
No,
Mechaknuckles is just here for Mechasonic to have, a character moment here with the flashback and the glitziness and all that.
Yep. It's just Stinger for first issue, and then dies in the actual first issue. It's
second issue, or first
in the
issue.
first
that
issue.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying now.
Yeah. And Sonic says, "Nice save, big guy. A little overkill maybe, but nice save all the same up top." But Mechasonic ain't finished.
Yeah, his eyes are red all the time now.
Ooh.
But honestly, with the way that this comic is color graded, the red and the orange aren't that dissimilar.
Yeah.
So if it was more of maybe a yellow, so that the red would stand out more. Anyway.
Mechasonic charges at Sonic, and Sonic's like, "Grr, so no high five then."
Yeah, this Mechasonic holds him up by his neck with his hand that isn't a crab claw.
And then it says, "Next time, Mechasonic attacks," and that's the issue.
He actually attacked this time.
Yeah, actually.
He's attacking just now in this last panel. Anyway, so I did not find this to be particularly interesting, and not even on a reread did I find it to be particularly interesting.
Sometimes when we reread comics, we discover things we didn't notice before that we end up enjoying.
I mostly just discovered that the Miles Electric screen is too small in this comic. Like I did have some thoughts about like characters and robots and who gets to be characters, but like
Hmm.
and that was in between when we initially read it in this review that I had those thoughts and then I wanted to bring them
Yeah,
up during the review.
I'm glad you did.
But and this is an important thing to note. That's not complimentary to this issue.
Yeah.
It's not like something that's specifically a problem beyond the fact that like once again, as we've been talking about not caring about Mecha boy do I not care about Mecha because neither does this comic actually.
Yeah.
As far as the actual story is concerned, at least so far, the only I mean, and it's broken now, so it's not like it's gonna have any. Even if they fix it, it's not gonna have any like impact on this story again.
Yeah.
Mecha is only here to set off. I mean, set off the programming spike problem that has already been happening with Mechasonic, and in fact, it was also affecting Mecha Knuckles.
Yeah.
And like they haven't stated it outright, I don't think, but it has been heavily implied that seeing Sonic and being around Sonic has been like causing their old programming to supersede and like overtake their current directives and actions.
Mm-hmm.
And Mechasonic was able to hold it off. It's not who we want it to be or whatever. We don't get a lot of inside of information about what Mechasonic actually wants other than to plant a flower.
Mm-hmm.
But Mecha just immediately just broke down into being a boss character again.
Yeah.
And now is dead. Or gone or blown up.
Yep. For me,
Yeah.
I think I like this comic less coming back to it. Like I am having noticeably less enjoyment coming back to it than I did when we first. So yeah, I think other people enjoyed it.
I remember that, like, with issue 1, I had enjoyed that more than you enjoyed issue 1, I think.
But like issue 1 was also just better than this.
Yeah, because of, it. So with issue 2, some of the issues I had with issue 1, like us not really getting any amount, we still really don't have any image of what Scrapnik Island is, and at this point I think it's on purpose that it's supposed to just be kind of a bad place, but then it's like, wow, the place that you named your miniseries after is really fucking boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, visually it's boring, and then like the gimmick of like, well, it's old broken Eggman robots that have been rebuilt and put together a bit. I mean, one, we kind of did that in test runs with newer robots and not older ones, and it was Eggman doing it on purpose. And then number 2, you could have done this story in a junkyard.
Yeah.
You could have done this story in an abandoned Eggman base. You could have done this story anywhere. Like, Scrapnik Island itself is just kind of a non-entity, seemingly on purpose, and it doesn't feel very compelling to me.
Yeah.
I guess if I had played Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then the entire Sonic fandom hadn't proceeded to treat Mecha Knuckles like the third coming of Jesus, then maybe I would have found it entertaining when we did the weird corrupted flashback, and it's like, oh, Mecha Sonic, he looks like. I said Mecha Sonic.
You said Mecha Knuckles the first time.
Sorry, I meant Mecha Sonic. I hate that they're both Mecha whatever.
Yeah.
It's so tedious.
It is.
But like,
Rain says the third coming of Jesus made me double over laughing. Excuse you, Jesus coming the third time is very important to me. As a joke, as a joke.
But yeah, like, Mecha Sonic is not a very interesting design. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
It was big, bulky, and over-designed in Sonic 3. There's a reason they didn't come back to it, and that's because the actual original Metal Sonic design, which only required one small update into the modern era to, like,
Mm-hmm.
slightly different fingers, a little bit different proportions.
Yeah.
But like otherwise, it's just a really good design. It evokes Sonic. It's very nice, and like there's a reason why they have brought back the one specific robotic Sonic design and not all of the others.
I'm gonna make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
I think that reason is, I mean, actually, well, I'm gonna not jump off with that and just say like the reason that Mecha is this big pop moment for people that people are like, oh shit, it's Mecha in Scrapnik Island. The singular reason is that Mecha is the one that didn't show up later. If Mecha had appeared in later games, showing up in other places and was generally the standard default Metal Sonic, people would not get it have enough of the Metal Sonic that we have for standard now.
Mm-hmm.
People would be like, "Oh, where's that one? I want that one," and then it would be here, and
Yeah,
it really
and then
hasn't
I
been.
wouldn't care.
Yeah, and like,
um, the thing is, like, I've seen Mechasonic like sew up in fan things and whatever, and I don't even like look at them a lot. I honestly find a lot of Sonic fan content to be really obnoxious and annoying.
kind of uninspired.
Um, yeah, and like so many times still, even though I don't look at a lot of it, I see this fucking tall robot
Mm-hmm.
because it turned gold a bit probably,
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
and it's like I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And with this comic, there is some effort to making this Mechasonic, this version that's all scrappied and then rebuilt. There's been an effort to give this version a bit of a character.
Yeah, I like that.
And I'm gonna be honest, I feel like this is all happening way too fast, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like anything's happening.
It's a heck of a problem.
um, so I'm gonna be honest. I feel like the pacing in this issue is really bad.
I'd say that's about right.
Because like it just feels very stuttery. Like we're going from one thing to another, and there's no real like cohesive flow. Um, and it's like, all right, we're leaving off to the egg carrier, and then it's like we're at the flower,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that's sudden. And then, all right, we've left the flower, we're going into the egg carrier now, and then we've been exploring the egg carrier for a while, and then it's time for the Mecha Knuckles fight.
Yep.
And then there's just sort of a bunch of fight scene. And like honestly, I feel like we could have maybe cut some of that fight scene to improve the pacing otherwise,
Yeah.
because it's not terribly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when it comes to Mechasonic, this version of Mechasonic, the Scrapnik Island one, as a character, it feels like we have gotten very little. We've just got like we got a hint of what the character is, and now I'm supposed to care that his programming has reasserted itself and he's no longer who he has remade himself to be.
Yeah.
When I don't really know who he's remade himself to be. Like, we didn't even get to see, I don't know, a scene of him doing a small kindness to another robot,
That's what I was just
or
thinking. Like, we could have seen that, and
like the only thing we've seen of Mechasonic is him caring for a sunflower.
mm-hmm.
And I need a bit more. I need a bit more to care.
Sunflowers are
And
pretty and all, but could you show that sanctity for life elsewhere, like with Mecha Knuckles? But
hmm,
that's the programming asserting itself, kind of.
yeah, and like there was a bit of like, oh, he's protecting Sonic in this issue,
Mm-hmm.
but like, and like there was a little bit of like when Sonic's reaching out for in friendship, Mechasonic also seems to be wanting the friendship a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, it's hard for me to tell if Mechasonic is supposed to be stoic or if like Daniel Barnes just didn't know quite how to make him work as a character if he had no dialogue.
Yeah, it
It's just it's not clear to me who this character is, and now he's a different character, and it's like I've barely learned him, and honestly, I don't know how we have two more issues of this, unless Mechasonic like stops attacking Sonic and then later goes berserk again.
which I think would be straining credibility at that point.
Yeah, but like what? Do we fight all of next issue and then not resolve it? Do we fight all of next issue, resolve it, and spend a whole issue getting ready to leave?
I feel like there has to be another antagonist revealed. Like maybe Sigma secretly battle along.
Like it feels like something needs to happen because this feels like it should be at the end of issue 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe next issue will make it clear what's going on. But for right now, it all just feels a bit. Uh? And unfortunately, it's the kind of thing that's like
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't surprised me in the sense that like I'm intrigued. It's just like, wow, I figured that would have happened later than this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it doesn't really change anything about the plot because like there's no time sensitive thing going on. There's no other characters that are really interwoven into this that would make Mecha Sonic turning on Sonic in issue 2 interesting.
Yeah.
It's just that and like I struggle to know to think of what's going to happen because I feel like if there was more going on, it would have already been, um,
Telegraphed?
yeah, like unless we're gonna resolve this and then and now Eggman's gonna come and attack Scrapnik Island.
Which feels like it'd be kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Maybe the weather machine will come up because that happened in issue 1. There just hasn't been a lot for me to go on to make me think of like that anything interesting is gonna happen.
Yeah. I I'm also just struggling to think of like where is this all going to culminate to? Like what is this all going to culminate to? Um is it just going to be a generic but you're not defined by your programming, you're defined by your gramming. And then Mechasonic is not programming, is himself. And then and
Yeah.
then
I will say just overall, writing for robots and machines and like sentient AI and stuff like that
mhm.
is a very tricky thing, and it's something that like I'm a big sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
I grew up on Star Trek and Star Wars and Stargate, all these star shows.
You grew up in the
Um,
stars.
yeah, and like I played a lot of sci-fi themed games, just a lot of things set in the future and with robots and all that, and like so I've grown up with a lot of exposure to the different ways you can write machines and artificial intelligences and things like that. And so, you know, one can say I have some opinions about like what makes good robot writing versus what makes like bad robot writing, or just like not very interesting to me robot writing at least.
Yeah, yeah.
So far, when it comes to this comic and machine writing, um, I like how Evan Stanley's been doing it best.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like she strides a really neat line between making these robots feel like they are people, while also making them feel like they are not the same as an organic life form. They are a sentient, machine life form, and
Yeah.
they act differently and think differently, but they are still people.
Hmm.
Um, and so far from Scrapnik Island, I've really not been getting that balance.
Yeah.
Like Sigma isn't much of a character.
He's
He,
lovely.
he's
He's fun to
he's
have,
neat.
but
He has some fun conversational gimmicks. I think he's probably the best written machine that we've gotten from Daniel Barnes so far.
hmm.
Um, but like he is just kind of limited, at least so far. Maybe
Yeah.
things will turn around in how I feel about him, but it's just I like him in the moment, and then he's just kind of forgettable.
Yeah. It.
There's a reason why I've forgotten his name every time.
Yeah, and
I mean, partly it's because he's another E100 series
that too.
that is like, can we please stop doing? Can we please do anything other?
Please.
Please. Sonic Comics have been doing this same thing where they just are like, oh, look, it's a different E100 robot, like not like the ones from the games.
Ooh.
It's like, I don't care. I really, really don't give a shit. Oh, this one looks like Gamut. That's nice. This one looks like whichever one was turned into a turret. I don't care.
So like I feel like in last issue, in terms of like writing, I definitely came away from last issue with like a more optimism, more like, oh, this is a better first impression for Daniel Barnes than just the annual story. I feel like he has better storytelling instincts than I initially thought, and then now we're here, and I'm like,
Yeah. Honestly, I would much rather read Daniel Barnes just writing Sonic
yeah,
because I think his Sonic writing is a lot better than anything that actually has to do with Scrapnik Island, the location, or its associated characters.
yeah,
Quite frankly, I find Scrapnik Island about as dull as its color palette, which is to say dull as dirt.
it's very dull.
It's so fucking brown. Like, when we're inside the ruined Death Egg and everything, the lighting's a lot more dramatic and a lot more interesting. And the whole time outside is just brown, brown, brown. It's so boring. It's such a boring location.
And then you flip to the next month cover, which is even more brown.
Oh, it's Tails, and it's the three amigos and Sigma, or two of the amigos and Sigma. Anyway, and there's a circle behind Tails.
Oh, it's a close up of Mechasonic.
Oh,
That's what's happening, y'all.
oh,
I just
there's
realized.
so little facial features on Mechasonic's design. I couldn't fucking tell.
If this was Metal
It's
Sonic, this wouldn't be a problem.
no, because Metal Sonic has a distinct faceplate. Anyway,
So, all in all, you might be surprised to learn this comic didn't do too much for us.
yeah,
I'm hoping that next issue we get more to go on, because I remember issue 2 for Imposter Syndrome was a bit of a dud. Kind of just spinning its wheels compared to issue 1, which is like, oh, maybe this will be cool. But then issue 3 came out and we're like, well, fuck, this is actually shaping up to be something. So,
yeah.
I mean, issue 3 is going to give us an idea of how it's going to end in issue 4. So,
Yeah, I feel like by issue 3, we will actually know what trajectory the story is taking because I really don't know what we're doing here, and there's a difference between I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know what we're doing here,
yeah.
and the difference is whether it feels aimless.
This feels like this issue's script, not the outline, but the script was written without knowing where it was going next.
Yeah, and like it's not a good feeling, when you read
Yeah.
something and it's just like it doesn't feel like the comic itself has a clear direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because, I mean, again, we'd like issue 1 better than this, and
In
I
general,
I like parts of how Daniel Barnes has been writing things.
yeah.
Like, I would love to see this miniseries actually, when you start Sonic and Tails, add just kind of more Sonic and Tails.
Yeah.
Because when Tails interacts with the Scrapniks and Sigma and whatever, it's just, wow, Tails is being a little geeky nerd boy, and that's cute the first time.
Yeah.
And then it happens more, and it's like,
Yeah, I get it.
right, he's not interacting with characters, he's interacting with plot devices. So there's not
Yeah.
a whole lot for Tails to bounce off of there.
That is how this comic opened. Like, look, Sonic, I developed a new plot device.
Wow, I guess that'll come up in issue 3 or issue 4, depending on how issue 3 goes and whatever the actual story of this comic is.
Yeah, so yeah, let's hope that this goes better next time, because I definitely want I would like it. I would like it if we had another like mainstay writer. It's I hesitate to say it, but like it is weird to like just suddenly we have a new miniseries with a new writer that we haven't like had besides in one annual.
Yeah, Daniel
Like,
Barnes kind of came out of nowhere and is now writing a miniseries, and I'm
I,
not sure why, but
I guess the pitch really impressed the Sega.
I guess. I think I remember seeing Evan writing on Tumblr that like various people, not just Evan and Ian, do make pizzas
Mm-hmm.
to the editors and Sega, and like I guess this pits worked.
I gotta say, it kind of makes me a little like sad that like this is the first pitch besides an Ian and Evan pitch that like made it through.
Yeah, I mean we don't know what the back end is like whether or not they were only looking for pizzas for annuals, and then that changed or what or.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's also the fact that like the last two miniseries were both directly tied into the events of the main book.
This is the thing we want. We want stuff that's not attached
Yeah,
per
this is
se.
what I want from the miniseries in a general sense. I just hope that it's also what I want from a miniseries in a reading a comic book sense.
Yeah.
And we won't know that until it's done. It's just that we started. I started on this fairly high in issue 1. I'm getting a lot lower in issue 2.
I wasn't that
And
high to begin with, and I'm getting even lower in this issue.
yeah, and like if issue 3 does like if you get something like this where it's like issue 2 really takes a dive, it makes it really hard for you to even have hope for issue 3. It's just like
Yeah.
it makes it feel like, oh, this is what it's doing. I thought it maybe was trying to do something better, but it's doing something I find very boring. And
Yeah. Um. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how issue 3 shapes up. We'll at least be reviewing that.
yeah, I mean, like we're pretty set to review the Sonic comics now that we're reviewing the Sonic comics. So we will
Yeah.
keep reviewing the Sonic comics.
I will say, probably the most interesting comic to come out that day, with featuring Sonic
It's
and
the only
Tails.
Sonic comic that came out that day that I heard about. I saw multiple people talking about this comic, and this was the only Sonic comic anyone was talking about.
Could we have like an aside real quick just to talk about how weird that
We're
was?
not we're
Okay.
not going to review the Tales 30th
Yeah.
anniversary for the record.
Yeah.
Partly
Yeah.
because I didn't realize it had come out. It was such a non-entity. I follow like Sonic related accounts. I follow Sonic fans, even some of them,
Yeah.
and like
I didn't
I
see
knew
shit about the
I knew
Tails.
Scrapnik Island was coming out. I got it digitally, on the fucking Amazon because it's the only way I can get digital comics. You know,
Yeah.
it went into my computer and I read it.
Hmm.
The day it came out, and I saw people talking about it. I saw people posting art.
Hmm.
I saw some people being quite excited about it.
Yeah.
And multiple days later,
I just happened to learn that the Tails 30th anniversary special came out that same day. And let me tell y'all, we closely looked up like the Kindle data, like the Kindle store, Amazon stuff, and it's pretty dire for the Tales Anniversary Special.
It was significantly lower for some reason. I mean, I guess because no one was talking about it and no one wanted it.
I mean, for me, I was turned off immediately because they were staking it like a comic that was supposed to celebrate Tales' 30 years of existence on on not just the classic games, but specifically a Japanese only classic game that people barely played and even less remember.
I played Tail Sky Patrol.
Hmm.
It was really wonky and weird. It was a little arcade style auto scroller thing where you're flying and you have a ring and you throw the ring around a pole and you spin around and then get launched. And then Fuckwolf shows up.
And like, I just think in this day and age, we really don't need more children's stories starring evil, ugly witches as
With
like
long noses.
with long noses, long big noses as villains. I just think, I
I
just
think
think,
if you're pulling from a generic stereotype villain, maybe don't pull from the anti-Semitism bag.
yeah,
Because
and
that's where the witch stereotype comes from, with the long nose.
yeah, and the thing is, the thing is, I noticed that it's not pointy, it's rounded, and that you went to that effort to salvage that. I just, there are other things you could do besides like cleaning up your favorite anti-Semitic stereotype character, and to have in a comic book now.
Yeah, especially as no one cares. Like, the thing is, I don't care about Mecha Knuckles and Mecha Sonic, but there are people who care about them. Like,
Yeah,
Mecha Sonic in particular was a boss in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, one of the like most celebrated Sonic games around. So many people like to say it's their favorite because it's a very popular one to be your favorite.
yes,
And you know, I've seen people post its sprite, its design, people have talked about it. And so like this is a nostalgia thing that anyone does care about.
mm-hmm.
No one played Tail Sky Patrol. No one cares about Tail Sky Patrol.
This
It
is
is the
only
most useless, worthless piece of Tails' history.
it's just here for bragging rights. It's just here for, like, I remember this Tails thing.
Tails had two different solo games, and one of them, Tails Adventure, actually ever came out in English originally.
And helpfully enough, it's the better one. It's the more fun one to play.
Yeah, it's a cute little game where it's about like, oh, you're doing gadgety stuff, which is what Tails is all about.
So yeah, we're
Anyway,
not gonna be
that's I
reviewing
guess
that.
our mini review of the premise, or as much as we bothered to learn about the premise of the Tails 30th anniversary one, which I learned is apparently just the one story.
Yeah,
And it's just from a classic game. There's no like Tales through the ages. It's not like
and the thing is, like, for Sonic, that's a longer amount of time. Tails came out like a year after Sonic, so that's even less time being celebrated in those 30 years.
and in fact, basically just one of those years is being celebrated because it's just about one game.
Yeah, 30 years of Tails, one Game Gear game. I
With
just,
no plot.
with no, I just think that if we didn't, this story wouldn't have even been told if there wasn't such an oversaturation of like gamer dudes in this whole fandom thing. But anyway, not going to be reviewing that. We don't need to.
Yeah.
It's not related to the comics at all.
Yeah, I mean it's another classic thing, meaning that it literally has nothing to do with the Sonic the Hedgehog comic series published by IDW.
Yeah, so you know. Uh, man, issue 54? 55? We did issue 54 already, right?
It's in my Kindle library. Yeah, 54 was the last one.
55 is coming out later than we expected.
Yeah, we actually expected it this previous Wednesday, but
Hmm.
it's coming out what on the 7th or something was it?
It was
Yeah,
like the 12th and
on
7th.
the 7th,
Hmm.
I believe. Last I checked it was the 7th. So
Week
you know,
before I get summoned for jury duty.
in a couple of weeks or so, we should be reviewing that. I imagine we will be more excited about it when it happens.
Yeah.
So expect that review to be, if not on time, then at least sooner.
Yeah, so, I think we've said all we really have to say about Scrapnik Island issue 2.
I really didn't have a lot to say. I wish I had more to
Hmm.
say. I really hope I have more to say next time because
It's one of our short. This has been one of our shorter reviews. Not as short as issue 51. You can give it that,
yeah,
but try not to make more comics like issue 51, please.
yeah.
But yeah. We try to stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Unlike today. But so if you haven't already, please feel free to follow us on Twitch to try and catch us when we're live. Thank you to Rain for tuning in and being in the chat. If you're watching from our YouTube VOD channel, please feel free to subscribe or leave a like or comment, because Cluster reads the comments.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those are linked to on the corresponding, like Twitch has YouTube link, YouTube has Twitch link, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's Cluster over there.
Hey.
Bye!
Bye bye.